We're living in a time of repeated hysteria, where all conclusions are already ideologically preset, and every piece of daily news is forcibly molded to conform with them. That's why there's apparently no need to wait for the specific facts of the Atlanta shooter case. We don't need to know more about him. We already know all we need to know. Number one, he's a white racist.
You killed 6 Asian people. Specifically, you went there. If there's anyone who's racist, it's a mother who kills 6 Asian women. Your murders speak louder than your words.
Well, if there's anyone who's probably wrong, it's a motherfucker who doesn't wait for the facts and acts as though the emotion of his edgy F words makes him right. I guess we're just going to disregard the white people and the Hispanic person also shot in this incident, because if a mass shooting isn't perfectly demographically representative like anything else in society, it too should be presumed to be racist. He should have shot exactly 6 white people, 2 Hispanics, 1 black person, and 1 Asian, because we don't want any affirmative action for our crime victims, only for our self-righteous, unfunny comedians. And number 2, it was Trump's fault.
It comes in a year where China was closely linked to the spread of the coronavirus.
The China virus.
Never mind that it's pretty weird to wait 2 months after Trump's presidency and throughout his near total silence since to be suddenly inspired by him. Never mind that there's no stated or even inferred political or coronavirus motive based on the evidence. Never mind that the shooter himself says this wasn't a racial thing.
It's still early, but he does claim that it was not racially motivated. He apparently has an issue, what he considers a sex addiction, and sees these locations as something that allows him to go to these places, and it's a temptation for him that he wanted to eliminate.
And never mind that there is evidence to back that story up. Anyone who thinks these things is also a racist, including the investigators themselves, because clearly the fact that this guy once posted a joke coronavirus t-shirt a year ago means he too is part of the grand racist plot. And this preset conclusion isn't just that this Atlanta case is a racist incident. It's that it's part of a broad trend of racist incidents, a supposed spike in anti-Asian hate crimes. 150%, that's the number you'll see repeated across news reports. Anti-Asian hate crimes spiked 150% in 2020. Did you punch an Asian last year? Statistics say you probably did. Whether this specific Atlanta shooting incident had any sort of racial motive, we'll have to wait to see. But this broader narrative about a spike in anti-Asian hate crimes, we won't. Dig into the data and it's clear. This is another manufactured hysteria to serve the politics of the moment. It is not a claim that's based on any sort of statistical truth. First of all, the numbers reported just aren't anything outside of historical norms. These reports want us to be myopic and see this rise in recent years here. Oh my God, what a terrifying trajectory. But back it up all the way to 1996 when the FBI started collecting hate crime data, and you can see we're actually at relative lows for anti-Asian hate crimes, not highs. And this despite more police agencies reporting to these statistics over that time, not less. Well, yeah, but that chart doesn't include 2020, the year of the dragon hate. That's true, but those 2020 numbers are from this Cal State Bernardino study, which says that anti-Asian hate crimes in these 16 major cities increased 150% in 2020 to a total of 122. We don't know the exact national numbers for 2020 yet per the FBI, but we can figure out a highly probable range. On the low end, let's say that this Cal State report accounted for all the anti-Asian hate crimes in 2020. That's not going to be the case, but it is the lowest possible answer. On the high end, let's say that the national numbers increased by the same 150% proportion over 2019, which is also highly unlikely since this Cal State report accounts for the major urban centers where more Asians live and where these incidents are more common. Assuming the true number lands within this range, which is highly likely, that number is still within historical norms. And it may be higher than in recent years, sure, but in no prior comparable year have we ever considered this a crisis. We never asked, why wasn't Obama successful in reducing anti-Asian hate crimes during his 8-year tenure? We never asked, what about Bill Clinton's rhetoric correlated with all-time anti-Asian hate crime records? And even if we do see a national 150% increase, the reason these incidents are so prone to such massive percentage fluctuations is not because they're so common. It's because they're so rare. Look at the numbers in the report that they're hyping. San Diego, a city of 1.4 million people, increased from 0 anti-Asian hate crimes in 2019 to 1 in 2020. New York City, the city driving these statistics, increased from 3 anti-Asian hate crimes in 2019 to 28 in 2020. That's a big increase, yes, but still microscopic numbers in a city of over 8 million people. In Chicago, 2.7 million people. Numbers stayed flat. 2 anti-Asian hate crimes in 2019 and 2 in 2020. Because when I think of Chicago's crime problem, I think of that one guy who mockingly threw chow mein at a Chinese dude or something. We're talking about 122 crimes in the context of tens of thousands of other crimes generally. Not all 2020 violent crime data are available yet, but some are. So I put together this chart of the per capita violent crime rate in 2020 in 4 of these cities highlighted in this Cal State report versus the per capita anti-Asian hate crime rate. Did I forget to enter the hate crime data? No, it is on the chart. You just have to zoom in absurdly close, and then you can barely see this tiny red sliver in Seattle, where the anti-Asian hate crime rate is the worst at 1.7 incidents per 100,000 population. In other words, in even the worst anti-Asian hate crime cities, there are 200 to 500 violent crimes generally for every 1 anti-Asian hate crime. Well, yeah, but that's because we don't properly categorize hate crimes. So there are way more than we know about. It doesn't matter if we call them hate crimes or not. There are obviously so many of them. And that's the real issue.
Whether it's explicitly called a hate incident is irrelevant. 6 of the 8 people murdered were Asian American. 7 of 8 were women. This man targeted places where Asian Americans were working.
Okay, fine. Let's say that every crime in which an Asian is victimized is a hate crime then. If we're not capturing enough of the data, let's capture all of the data. They're all hate crimes. The question then is, are Asians victimized by crime at a disproportionately high rate? And the answer is no. According to the latest release of Justice Department statistics, adjusted for population, Asians are actually the victims of violent crimes at a rate lower than all other races, white, black, Hispanic, and otherwise. And if you consider that analysis overly broad, not all crimes against Asians are hate crimes, but many are, fine. Let's look at the FBI's hate crime statistics. Are Asians victims of racial hate crimes at a disproportionately high rate? Again, the answer is no. Asians are well below Black people, Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders, Native Americans, and slightly below Latinos as well in terms of per capita hate crime victimization. Take whatever data you want, from the FBI's specific hate crime data to just all crime data overall. There is no statistical world in which Asians are disproportionate victims of crime. But if you're going to buck the data and stick with the narrative, you must explain who is doing these crimes, especially if you're going to make a claim like this.
We know that at the root of it is deep-seated, unconscious bias and internalized, like, systemic racism and white supremacy.
Every other word in that sentence was just a meaningless ideological buzzword, but I gather the point is she blames white people. Again, this claim has no basis in any crime data. Of all violent crimes committed against Asians, again, according to Justice Department data, most are committed by Black offenders. White people are tied with other Asians in committing crimes against Asian people. Locally, these numbers are even more skewed. Historically, in San Francisco, up to 85% of violent crimes against Asians have been committed by Black attackers. Unless you want to make the argument that white people are so sophisticated in our racism that we mentally control other races to do our hate crime bidding for us as cover, there is no white supremacy argument here. And if you do want to make that argument, then you'd have to say that we're supreme, because we'd have a telepathic superpower. But beyond all of this statistical illiteracy, there is even more silliness in the strategizing about what to do about it. There is delusion in believing the media presentation on this issue, but there is clinical insanity in believing some special emoji-designated hashtag on Twitter or a yellow square posted on Instagram is going to do a damn thing about it. Because I get it, no matter how statistically insignificant, even one crime is a problem when you're the target of that crime. All the stats in the world don't matter when there's someone at your door, in your face, trying to harm you. It doesn't matter if you're the anomaly or the trend in that situation. All that matters is you're in it. And if you're in it, what's going to matter more? Your digital virtue or your ability to stop the threat? Reports this week say that Asians are responding to this supposed 2020 hate crime trend by participating in the other 2020 trend, getting strapped. There aren't comprehensive data, but anecdotally, a New York gun shop owner speaking with this Forbes reporter says half of his already doubled sales are now coming from Asian buyers looking to defend themselves. In Poway, California, another shop manager says she's seen a 20% increase in Asian first-time buyers. Those buyers also citing self-defense reasons. The same in Ohio and the same in Washington State. If we're going to ignore the historical data, I'm at least happy to see lessons learned from the historical solution. Nobody defends you better than you defend yourself.
I think now that man up there seems to be holding a shotgun, Larry, and thus far there does not seem to be any looting or burning, at least right where they are.
Because on this, we should all agree, statistically increasing or not, statistically disproportionate or not, the hate crimes end when the hate crimes have consequences. And consequences don't come from Twitter trends. They come from rooftop positions. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel always. Appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below and especially over on Gab, that is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Come on.